It's hard to believe it's almost been 4 years since Jonathan Hickman returned to Marvel Comics, blew X-Men readers' minds, had everyone excited about the future of X-Men. We all know how that turned out. It didn't go well. But Jonathan Hickman has been teasing a new project for 2023. Now we have the details. We know what it's going to concern, who the main players in it are, and who the artist is going to be. And here's a hint. It's not who they originally announced. In my opinion, this is an upgrade as far as artists. It's probably not as big as everyone wanted. He's not going to be revamping one of the major characters or major teams within Marvel Comics, but he is revisiting something that he pretty much put an end to several years back. Jonathan Hickman and Bryan Hitch have an event caliber series coming to Marvel this summer called Ultimate Invasion, launching on June 21st. This is the most information we've gotten on Hickman's next project ever since he teased something big with Valerio Schitti back at San Diego Comic-Con 2022. So apparently Valerio Schitti is out and Bryan Hitch is in. Valerio Schitti is a very good artist, but if you're going to go back to the Ultimates, why not bring in the best artist in the history of the Ultimates? If you've never read Mark Millar and Bryan Hitch's The Ultimate series, you are missing out on some wonderful Marvel action. It's one of the best things Marvel has put out in the last 10 to 15 years. Absolutely mind-blowing stuff on the part of Mark Millar, and certainly the art by Bryan Hitch is equally as good as the writing of Mark Millar. If you like the way Cap looked in the MCU, you can thank Bryan Hitch because he's the one that came up with that awesome design for Captain America that ended up making it into the MCU right there in the Ultimate Universe with the Ultimates themselves, basically their version of the Avengers. Jonathan Hickman certainly has a history with the Ultimate Universe as well. He pretty much killed it with Secret Wars, one of the last things he did before he left Marvel the first time. And it's no secret that Jonathan Hickman might be at his best, at least at Marvel Comics, when he's taking the crumbs that Brian Michael Bendis has left behind and building something out of that. Obviously, Brian Michael Bendis was the original architect of the Ultimate Universe, so I think this is a good pairing. But little is known about the event so far, although it has been made clear Miles Morales and the Maker will play large roles in Ultimate Invasion. Both characters have been alive and well in Marvel stories for years, with Maker popping up in Venom, for instance, and Miles Morales having a long-running, ongoing series. Can we really consider Miles Morales Spider-Man a long-running, ongoing series, considering it's on issue number 2 now, since it rebooted? I don't know. I think I have a different threshold for a long-running, ongoing series than Adventures in Poor Taste. But nevertheless, I think this is a good match. The Maker is a very interesting character. Obviously, a very warped version of Reed Richards. He's all scarred up, and he's got all these different powers and stuff. And we certainly saw him highlighted quite a bit, very effectively, by Donny Cates in his Venom run. But I think Miles Morales might be the more important character here, because Miles Morales, despite the first issue doing pretty well, is kind of in no man's land at Marvel Comics. He started out great being the Ultimate Spider-Man, and people really into the character, but since they've incorporated him into the regular Marvel Universe, he hasn't really taken off. He's taken off in video games, he's taken off in movies, but in comic books, he's kind of just sitting in Peter Parker's shadow. So I think it's probably a smart idea to bring somebody the caliber of Jonathan Hickman, who's excessively creative and very good at executing what he wants to do. If he has a plan to elevate Miles Morales, I think that's a really good thing to do for the character. That is smart business by C.B. Cebulski and the editorial staff at Marvel Comics. Now, if he's just using Miles Morales and everything that happens in this book means nothing to the greater Marvel Comics universe, then whatever, I guess it's just an opportunity wasted. But Miles Morales could use some TLC from an actual good comic book writer, which Jonathan Hickman absolutely is. So I am somewhat excited about that. I think that's a good idea. The series marks 20 plus years since Hitch and Hickman explored another type of Avengers in the Ultimates, and it's gonna be as big as their original run. Hitch said to EW, "It's big budget, high concept, widescreen storytelling. I feel right at home." As well he should, because he's Bryan frickin' Hitch, and he's the best artist in the history of Marvel's Ultimate Universe, at least in this guy's opinion. Like I said, if you haven't read that one, get off your ass, go to your comic book shop, get you a trade of that, and then you're going to thank me later. Other than the stuff with Hank Pym and the Wasp, that's damn near a flawless comic book, just as far as the writing and the art. Bringing Bryan Hitch on this project is absolutely the right move. Like I said, Valerio Schitti is a really good artist, but Bryan Hitch is the man for the Marvel Ultimate Universe, and I want to see him illustrate his version of Captain America again. I want to see his unique designs for the adventures. Bringing an artist with the pedigree of Brian Hitch on the series also lets readers know, lets retailers know that Marvel Comics probably invested more than just a little bit of coin in this Ultimate Invasion series. So I think that's a good move. Hickman remained cryptic as far as what the story could be about, although he did mention the maker destroyed the Ultimate Universe and he was interested in using him to take it in a new direction. More specifically, the Ultimate Universe would be inverted from what it originally was, and the Ultimate Invasion will get us from point A to point B. This is a 4-issue limited series. It is not an ongoing, it's not an all-encompassing type event. It's going to be limited. But going from point A to point B sounds like there's an end destination in mind to perhaps expand the Ultimate Universe and maybe bring it back, which I think would be a pretty good idea. Marvel Comics' current continuity just isn't very good, and people need alternatives. We're getting these great throwback issues, like in continuity from 30 years ago, from amazing writers like Chris Claremont, Peter David, J.M. DeMatteis, all coming back and doing really good series. But I think something that has its own continuity that actually matters and could lead to something as an alternative to what Marvel is doing would be a good thing. And perhaps Jonathan Hickman would be a good architect for that. Although I will mention a majority of the really, really, really bad writers that were brought on to X-Men that basically destroyed his X-Men plans. You know, we had a big 3-year plan that he was supposed to do after House of X Powers of 10. The reason it didn't work is because he brought in a lot of those writers himself. He's the one that thought Tini Howard would work great on X-Men, and that didn't work out very well. And he made a lot of bad decisions like that. He made Jerry Duggan kind of front and center, like maybe the number 2 writer when it came to the X-Men line. Now Jerry Duggan's writing X-Men, and it kind of sucks. So maybe he should be the chief creative officer of an Ultimate Universe. But when it comes to hiring the talent, I don't know. I'm a little skeptical at this point, especially just seeing how badly his X-Men failed when he was like the guy. At least that's what Marvel Comics told us, that, you know, Jordan White was there to be the editor, but Jonathan Hickman was truly in charge. If this brings back the Ultimate Universe full time, I'm personally in favor of it. As long as they go out there and get good writers, keep it limited, maybe 3-4 series at a time maximum, heading up to some big things, maybe an event every 2 years or something like that. I think that could be a really cool alternative that wouldn't feel overwhelming to Marvel Comics customers. Where do you even start? Like, there's 9 different X-Men comics. There's like 10 different Avengers comics going on right now. I think there's 6 different Spider-Man comics. If they had one line, you know, with an Ultimates comic, a Spider-Man comic, maybe a couple of other key characters, and they kept it really tight and contained and did really kick-ass stories, I think that would go over very well with Marvel Comics fans. And people like the Ultimate Universe more than the regular universe for quite some time. Obviously, it fell off. They brought in some bad creators who made bad decisions, and then it just didn't feel special anymore, especially when they just kept doing old stories in the Marvel Comics universe, but like in the Ultimate Universe. It's like, you got to come up with an original idea somehow. And hopefully, Jonathan Hickman is the man for that. If you're an Ultimate Universe fan, I've got good news. It's coming back for at least 4 issues, and it sounds like we're going from point A to point B. Hopefully, that is the rediscovery, the reemergence of the Ultimate Universe in Marvel Comics, although it could be something like Flashpoint Beyond from DC Comics. Recently, they went and re-explored the Flashpoint universe, which was destroyed, obviously, in Flashpoint, and it was a nice, tight little contained story, and it did tie into some bigger things at DC Comics. But we're not going to see the Flashpoint universe again. Perhaps this will be something like that, but my hope is it's a little bit bigger, and Jonathan Hickman has some bigger plans in Marvel Comics because he needs something to really chew on. You could see he had amazing plans for X-Men with House of X, Powers of 10, and it never happened. And it's so frustrating just as a reader. So I can't imagine how frustrated he is. In fact, you know, he didn't go into it too deep, but he was definitely throwing some pretty decent shade at the Marvel Comics X-Men office, why he had to leave and why he abandoned X-Men. If you didn't see this or hear his comments, definitely check out this video. There's also a link in the video description.